I'm going to read something that I wrote about the impact of the beliefs that we subscribe to. The example that I'm going to be using here is around the belief that I was abandoned. There are a lot of people that suffer from abandonment issues, and it feels like this has been coming up a lot. I think it's been coming up for a reason. It's coming up for healing. It's very important for us to step out of this victimized story about abandonment, because usually the abandonment story is because of something that happened when we were very young. And so this could be something from a 5-year-old, and the 5-year-old doesn't know any better. They just know that they don't feel safe and they don't feel secure, and that their caregiver is no longer there to care for them for whatever reason. And that little child doesn't know. That little child just knows mommy or daddy isn't there anymore to take care of me. And this creates a whole program that runs subconsciously as we move through adulthood and affects everything that we do. So I just want to take a look at this because energetically, if we as a collective can start to heal these types of beliefs and adopt a healthier way of looking at things, and really it starts with metacognition, right? Thinking about the way that we think, paying attention to the thoughts and the feelings that we have. This energetically is going to create a ripple effect throughout the collective. So I'm just going to read through this here. So the belief that I had and that was playing beneath the surface for me was I was abandoned. And experiences that led to that belief started with when my parents got divorced. They separated when I was 15, and they divorced a couple of years later. A little while after that, in my 20s, I was estranged from my mother and from my father for a while. Then later on, I experienced 2 divorces and a broken engagement. And so all of these things were just perpetuating these beliefs that came from when I was younger. And for me personally, it was when I was a teenager, not super young, but a lot of times this can happen. It doesn't matter when it happens, really. It's just sometime in childhood that is very impactful. And it can be divorce. It can be maybe a parent just left. Maybe you lost a parent through death. So it can appear in many different ways, but the idea is the same. I'm not safe, I'm not secure, I'm not loved. So these were all experiences that had nothing to do with me personally, really, except the divorces, my personal ones did to some extent, but they were a result of that program that had been playing from my parents' divorce, and the beliefs and interpretations that my mind had at that point in my life. So by concluding that I was abandoned after those experiences, I took it on my own, those experiences on as my own, and became that victim. Ultimately, the belief behind it was that I was not good enough. If I was good enough, they wouldn't have left. Now I had that something that was done to me. They left me because I wasn't good enough. And along with that, I created a fear around it happening again. And now there's something to protect myself from. And I create that protection mechanism to keep myself safe. So that can come out in many different ways as well, depending on the person. But as I moved forward in life, I was carrying around these walls around my heart. And I may have had the conscious idea that I wanted to have a loving partnership. But what I created subconsciously was the story that in the past I wasn't good enough and I was abandoned. And so there's a good chance it will happen again. So I have to protect myself. Energetically, what happens is that because I was expecting to be abandoned, I attracted people who would abandon me, so my beliefs could be confirmed. See, I knew it would happen. Of course, because you created that experience to confirm that belief. The other thing that happened is even if I had someone who loved and cared for me, I wouldn't have been able to see it because all I could see was somebody who would abandon me. And that leads to things like self-sabotage. So everything that I would see the other person do would be through that lens of, you're just going to abandon me. And what I would do in my relationships is subconsciously, it wasn't a conscious thing, subconsciously I would try to control and manipulate through people pleasing in order to try to be good enough to not be left. But it backfired. Nobody likes to be controlled, for one. And although my behavior wasn't very controlling, it was manipulative in a way because I wasn't asserting my needs, my wishes, my wants, and that would later on come out in more of a negative form because I wasn't saying what I needed. And so it is a method of bringing toxicity into the relationship because of that unhealed part of me. But it can also go the other way, and it can be more of a controlling thing for some. But nobody likes to be controlled, so then the other person might get angry and leave. But because the protection mechanism of trying to be controlling doesn't really allow taking responsibility for anything, then that belief has been substantiated. Again, I'm not good enough. Again, I have no control, I'm not safe, I'm not secure. See, it's this perpetual cycle. This is why it's imperative to analyze our beliefs and to follow them to the root cause the best that we can. Once we discover the core belief gremlin, which the gremlin is that core belief that runs subconsciously. And in this case, if I was abandoned, I'm not good enough. Once we recognize that that's the thing that's running the show, then we're empowered to change it. This awareness is key because it's a program running in the subconscious, energetically creating situations again and again to substantiate the belief. We need to consciously choose to let go of that belief and replace it with something that's more beneficial. So the thought process might go like this. I wasn't abandoned. My parents made their decisions based on something that had nothing to do with me. They had their own issues from their childhood that they were playing out in their marriage. It didn't have anything to do with me. It was unfortunate that their decisions impacted my life and their lives, and that things didn't happen the way that I would have liked them to. But they were their choices, and I am free as an adult to make mine. See how it goes from completely different, it goes from being victim-based to empowered. All of a sudden, you're not the hurt child where somebody outside of you is hurting you, because you can see that it had nothing to do with you. It wasn't personal. It wasn't that you weren't good enough. It was that they had their own issues from their childhood that they were dealing with. It removes that personal aspect of it. All of a sudden, you're able to see the situation in a completely different light. It's very healing. It's very empowering. And allows you to step back and create a different story for yourself that won't sabotage your relationships and your happiness in the future. So the difference here is I was abandoned. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. No one will ever love me. I need to protect myself at all costs from ever feeling that way again. Unhealthy. Or my parents made unfortunate choices based off of their wounding from their childhood trauma. And it had nothing to do with me. And I'm an adult now, and I can choose different thoughts, different beliefs. I can choose to heal my wounds from when I was a child so that I don't perpetuate those same wounds in the way that my parents did. So after following the path to the core wound, acknowledging it, releasing it, choosing the different belief, you might notice that things will start to trigger that belief. And this is actually a gift because you have this new awareness. Whereas before you would just get triggered by it and go down an emotional spiral. Now you can recognize what's happening, and you can say to yourself, oh, it's triggering my old abandonment wound. It gives me another chance to work on that healing, to get that inner child compassion and love. It gives me another chance to make a conscious choice. Recognize that that is an emotion that is a ghost from the past. And I'm going to visualize it dissipating out of love because I know it's nothing more than a ghost. I know that I'm an empowered adult that can make her own choice now, make a new choice to believe that I am worthy. I know I'm worthy. I know I'm good enough. I know that I can create empowered, beautiful relationships for myself. I know that I don't have to live perpetuating the story from when I was a little kid who just didn't know any better. It can help to have some sort of a mantra or sentence memorized that is along those lines. You know, create something that will work for you. But when you recognize that abandonment, I know that I am love. That's an old belief, and I choose to let it go with love. It's all with love, right? All with love and compassion for everything that we've been through, all the hurt that we've been through. None of it's wrong. We're just choosing to believe something that's going to bring us more love and joy and happiness in our life. And to let the old stuff go that makes us feel bad, that hurts our relationships, that hurts ourselves. Something that makes us feel worthy and empowered. This is what it takes to start to heal and create more beauty for ourselves and for our world.